This video will demonstrate how to make a repair to vinyl material, basically using our deluxe leather repair or vinyl repair kit, excuse me. I've made a makeshift cushion here. It's got foam padding in it, real vinyl, real upholstery vinyl. And we're going to demonstrate how a repair is going to be made to a damaged portion of this. Right now it's not damaged, but we're going to change that in just a minute. First, let's go ahead and create some damage. I'm just going to punch a hole in it. And we'll create a nice little V shape. And that is a pretty typical damage that you'll find on a lot of vinyl items. The very first thing we want to do, we're going to use the curing iron. This is a 110 volt curing tool. It's got a special tip on it. It's electric operated, so you have to put it into an outlet. I recommend that you plug this in before you start the repair. That gives it plenty of time to get hot. It does need a considerable amount of heat to cure the repair compound. The first step in our process, we want to use the vinyl cleaner. This product will clean any gunk off of the vinyl that happens to be there, oils, soiling, whatever, that could interfere with our repair and the color coat materials that we'll apply. So we'll spray a generous amount of the cleaner directly onto the vinyl. And then we will scrub it well. This is a brand new piece of vinyl, so we're not going to have a lot of dirt and gunk on this one compared to something that you would have out in the field, car seat, vinyl furniture, whatever the case may be. So there's really not going to be much coming off. We won't have to do a lot of scrubbing to this because, like I said, it's relatively clean. Before we go any further, we're going to want to dry this. I'll use a hair dryer, and we'll just put some heat to it for a short period of time. And get that dried well. The next step of our process, we want to use the vinyl prep. Now this is a very important step because what it's going to do, it's going to etch this surface of the vinyl, soften it so that it's receptive to the repair materials that we put in, as well as the new color coat that we're going to apply. It's also going to remove things that the cleaner cannot remove, such as silicones, heavy body oils, other foreign matter that always remains on the vinyl after a good cleaning. This will clean all of that off so that we are down to the raw vinyl itself. So we'll take a cloth. We'll apply some of the vinyl prep. After you've removed the sealed lid, to the paper towel, we will scrub the area very well. Now I want to do this anywhere that we're going to be working. Our repair is only going to be in this area, but when we apply the color coat material, it's going to be over the entire surface area. I like to do from seam to seam. That way it's much easier to blend in. You don't have the issues of trying to feather in a small little area. So doing the entire surface area of the panel will allow you to get an excellent job. This material is going to soften that vinyl. In some cases, you'll actually feel the vinyl get kind of sticky because it's doing what it's supposed to do. It's etching into that vinyl. So you want to be generous with the vinyl prep. Keep the surface very wet and continually work the cloth over top of the vinyl so that it kind of agitates the surface a bit. Now you don't want to let this material dry on there. You're going to want to use a dry cloth and immediately wipe off any of the wet residue. The wet residue will actually pull the silicones and oils away from the surface. If you were to allow that to just dry on there, it will settle back onto the vinyl. Using a cloth to absorb it, you'll actually be removing all of that foreign matter that might exist. Again, we want to dry this. Everything needs to be dry in between processes. There are some fumes that are generated with the vinyl prep material, so it's a good idea to do this in a well-ventilated area. Once this is dry, because this is a hole all the way through and you can actually see the padding underneath, we need to apply a subpatch material. You'll have a piece of subpatch in the kit, and we're just going to take and cut this just slightly larger than the hole. We'll actually make it about 1/2 inch larger all the way around. So I'm going to start just by cutting off a nice little square piece. See how it looks that way, and I think that's a good size. I'm then going to fold it in half, and I'm going to cut off the corners. That gives us somewhat of a rounded subpatch to slide in there. Those sharp corners, if you left them on, can cause issues when you're trying to slide it underneath the vinyl, because they can fold up and then you'll get a high spot. So by rounding those off, it's much easier to slide that subpatch in without causing any distortion to the surface. I'm going to use a pair of tweezers and just grab one corner of the subpatch. I'm going to lift the flap and just slide it underneath all the way. And I'll open it up and kind of spread those tweezers out so that that lays flat. I'll come back and grab the other edge with my tweezers, just this edge of the subpatch, and I'm going to slide it back the other way. Now I want to make certain that everything is laying flat, so I'll go back in, I'll straighten up any folded edges, any areas that look like they may be raised underneath. I'll feel over it. If I can feel anything, I'll then go back and try to push those down again. And that's where I want my subpatch to be. Now to lock that subpatch into place, from this point on, we're going to be using the uncolored clear vinyl repair compound. For you professionals out there, it's the DT120 vinyl repair compound. This material is clear, and we're going to use a palette knife. I'm going to take a small amount, lift the flap of the vinyl, and I want to slide this underneath the vinyl, between the vinyl and the subpatch material. Just a small amount, doesn't take much, because again, you don't want any raised areas or ridges underneath. So using just a small amount of the material, we'll just slide that under there and apply it so that it gets to both the underside of the vinyl and the top side of the subpatch. We'll clean the knife off a little bit. I'm then going to just gently press that down so that everything lies flat. Now you can go ahead and cure this at this point. Personally, I like to apply just a little bit more now to start the fill-in process, because we need to fill those gaps between the damaged edges of the vinyl. Now I want to keep the repair compound very close into the damage. I don't want to spread it in a large area. Just stay very close and spread it very smooth and very thin. And basically that's what you'll want to have once you get the repair compound spread. Now the next step, you got a set of graining papers. Each of these graining papers has its own individual pattern that you can match up to the vinyl that you're working with. So what you want to do is go through these individual pieces and choose the grain pattern that closest matches the piece that you're working with. And I think in this situation, I think we'll use this one here. So I'll pull them apart. Before you lay it down onto the actual repair area, make certain that you see this side up, because this is the side that's going to come up. This side must go down onto the repair material. This is a bit shinier than the back side. That also will reference to you to the fact that this is the side that needs to go down. This is where the grain pattern is, and this is the area that's designed to work in conjunction with the repair. So what we'll do, and something that you can do as well, you can actually mark with a pen or a pencil the center of this so that you know that where that's placed, where your repair is underneath. I'm going to guess at it at this point, but I'm just going to lay it very flat onto the surface area. I'm now going to use the curing tool, and I'm going to place this right onto that graining paper. Now I want to do this, I want to keep it moving in a circular motion directly over the repair compound. And I'll keep it applied roughly about 30 to 60 seconds. Each piece of vinyl is going to be different. Some vinyls are very heat resistant and it will take much more heat. Some vinyls are very heat sensitive and will take much less heat. So leaving the curing tool onto the repair area for 30 to 60 seconds the first time will give you a pretty good idea of how much heat this vinyl is going to tolerate. Keep that tip moving. Do not let it sit in one place for any length of time. That will cause some damage to the vinyl underneath. Keep the tip flat. Don't let it go on an edge. Now, to test how much heat you've actually got to the area, take your fingers and gently tap on the area to make sure that it's hot. Don't hold your fingers there, obviously, because you'll get burnt. But when it feels like it's sufficient heat, remove the curing tool and allow the repair area to cool. If you try to lift this up before it's cool, you'll pull everything out. So you want to let it cool completely before you peel the graining paper up. Doesn't take long, a minute or so, and by touching it with your fingers, you'll feel the heat dissipating. I think we're safe, so we'll just grab a corner and we will gently peel it away. Now, there's our repair, relatively cured out. In this situation, I can see that there's still some uncured areas. I will probably want to go back and apply more heat to this. This is a bit more heat tolerant vinyl, so I will just go back and put a little bit more heat with the graining paper and cure this out further. Now I can also see that there's a slight indentation in my repair. There's also edges around here that I didn't get laid down flat. So since I'm going to redo the area again, I'll just apply a little bit more of the repair compound. Just a small amount all I want to do is just fill those low areas in. And we'll do the process again. This time I will leave it on just a tad bit longer. But because we only put it on for that short period, the first application, that tells us exactly how much heat this vinyl will tolerate. So I can leave the heat on there just a little bit more, work it out in a little bit farther area around the repair so that I get everything smooth. Now I'm not pressing hard with this tip. I'm basically just leaving the weight of my hand and keeping the tool moving in a circular motion. If you press too hard, you will cause some distortion of the vinyl, and you'll have to deal with that at a later time. But just leaving the weight of the tool itself and constantly working it around, keeping even pressure over the surface, you'll get everything worked in nicely. Keep in mind that vinyl repair is a welding process. You're basically melting the vinyl and melting the repair compound. Then the slight pressure from the curing tool actually presses them together. The graining paper impresses the grain pattern back into the repaired area. That's what blends it in and can make a very nice, almost unnoticeable repair. Keep that tip moving constantly. Don't allow it to sit in one place for any length of time. You'll get uneven heat, and it'll get too hot in one spot and not hot in another spot, and will cause you some problems. So keep it moving and keep it flat onto the graining paper. And I think that's going to be sufficient. We'll allow that to cool, and we'll see what our results are. Okay, this has cooled sufficiently, so we're going to gently pull the graining paper up from the repair, and that is the completed repair. Now you can hold this sideways with the light to reflect off the surface to see if there may still be some spots that needs further touch up, some edges that need to be worked down. I think that what we've got here is a sufficient repair. It is tough, it's not gonna come apart, and it looks pretty good. So what we're gonna do now is we're going to refinish this area. But before I do that, I wanna use the vinyl prep again and adjust a tiny amount to wash over that surface just a little bit. The reason for that is because you'll get oils from your fingers transferring onto the surface. You'll get foreign matter from the graining papers. They may have a little bit of silicone residue on them or whatever. If you take all of that off, you will have no issues with the color coat sticking to your surface. So let me get things set up for applying our finish, and we'll be right back. Okay, we're set up to apply our finish. You'll notice I put some drop cloths around. Depending on where you're working in your environment, you'll want to protect the surrounding areas. from getting any of the color coat material onto them. So using masking paper, newspaper, cardboard, whatever, just protect the surrounding area. Now, in the deluxe vinyl repair kit, you will have gotten a color that you pre-ordered. For you professionals out there, this color is one that either you've purchased from us or you've actually mixed yourself. It will match the vinyl that we're working with. To begin with, what you'll need your color coat, you'll need the applicator sponge, and you will need the hair dryer. We've already done all the prep work. There's nothing further that we need to do in that case. Shake your bottle of color coat very well because the pigments will settle to the bottom. Apply the Prevol sprayer. In your kit, you've got instructions on how to use the Prevol sprayer. And once you've got it set up, just spray a light mist onto the surface of the vinyl. Not much, just a little bit. And then use the applicator sponge and just wipe the color coat into the vinyl. This vinyl prep that you used to prep the surface remains effective for 90 minutes. What that means is the surface of this vinyl will remain open to the repair compounds and color coats for 90 minutes after it has been applied. That allows everything to be absorbed into the vinyl and take permanent root. Just spread that out. Make sure there's no ridges. And we'll let that dry. You can let it dry on its own, or you can use a hair dryer. I prefer a hair dryer because it makes things faster. Now, once that's dry, we will no longer use the applicator sponge. You may continue to do so, but you will find that you'll get a much better job using the Prevol spray unit. Spray another light mist over the surface. Hold the unit back a good 12 to 16 inches away from the surface and just spray a light mist over the surface. And then dry that. It will generally take 3 to 4 coats to get the area finished to your satisfaction. You'll notice here I didn't spray the entire area. I focused my spray onto the repaired area. The reason I did that is to get just a little bit more depth to the color on that repaired area. Now, as I'm applying my color finish, I can see areas in my repair that I'm not real happy with. When you look closely, and I'm not sure you can see it on this video, but there are some little tiny holes or air bubbles that I didn't get completely worked out. There's also some ridges that I'm not happy with. So I can actually go back with the repair material and spread it over the area on top of the color coat and touch up those areas. So to dress up these areas, I'm going to go back with the vinyl repair compound and my palette knife, and I'm going to take just a small amount and put directly onto that area. Now, I want this to be very thin I don't want to put very much on at all. All I want to do is just fill in those little divot marks from the air bubbles. I will apply my graining paper once again and use the curing tool and cure everything out. This time I may not use quite as much heat. I may not leave it on quite as long as I did the second time, simply because the material, the repair compound is on there very thin. The strength of the repair is already completed, and all this is just dressing out the repair. So it won't take nearly as much as it did the second time. But you still want to make sure that the material is cured. If it's not completely cured, there is the possibility of it peeling later on because it wasn't cured sufficiently. So you do want to make certain that it is cured out. Okay, we will allow that to cool down. Okay, our repair looks a little bit better now at this point. From here, we will put more of the color coat material on. Again, I'm just going to focus right in the repaired area. Use the applicator brush, sponge, and wipe it in just a little bit. We'll dry it. Okay, one more coat with the spray, and I believe our repair is completed. Just a light mist. Dry it with the hair dryer. There's our completed repair. Now, the last thing that you want to do is use the vinyl conditioner. I'm going to use the low luster vinyl conditioner in this case. It does not produce a glossy, shiny finish. It stays rather satin finish, if you will. You don't need to do this right at the moment. As a matter of fact, it's best recommended to wait a few hours before you apply the leather conditioner. But it's a relatively simple process. Shake the bottle well. Pour some into a cloth. And then wipe it directly onto the surface of the vinyl. Now, if you do this very soon after you've done the project, you will get a little of the color off. If you wait a few hours before you apply it, you'll take much less off. there's always a chance of taking a little off. Usually it is nothing more than dried residue from the spray. But once you've wiped that on, let it dry on its own, or you can use a hair dryer to dry it rather quickly. And that is vinyl repair using the Leather Magic Deluxe Vinyl Repair Kit.